Brought to you by Lister Pros TV, streaming from Tempe, Arizona. And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Hope everybody had a good weekend. We're doing the How I Built It show on Monday this week because Pastor Ben, we call him Pastor Ben, but he's in town. He wasn't here Friday. I've been dying to get him on the show for, a year now, 2 years?
Probably about a year.
I've been bugging you all the time. And he's starting a podcast himself. So this is a perfect time to get him on, talk, learn about his story. So he's in town until Thursday. We're going to grab some dinner in the next couple of days, but today was the day. So we're going to have a show today, and we're going to have another show on Friday with another guest. But really quick shout out. We got to give a shout out to our sponsors before they start the show. There goes that screen for how you're talking about. But first shout out goes to Empire West Title, Seth Banda. And then next, Bond Insurance Professionals of Arizona. And then last but not least, Planet Home Warranty, Yvonne Hunter. Thank you guys for sponsoring the show. And then this show is obviously brought to you by the Augustinian team at Prime Lending, your preferred lender in most states in the nation. So if you need a refinance or get pre-qualified for a house, you know who to call. But Pastor Ben, we're going to get started. Usually I talk a little bit more about some other stuff. It snowed in Arizona. Everybody knows it because that's probably all you saw on social media. You're used to snow because you live in Oregon.
Yep.
But so we have Pastor Ben. Little backstory to our history. Pastor Ben was a pastor at my wife Brittany's church for many years, a youth pastor, right? And he actually married my wife and I on the street we grew up on.
It was a great day.
Wasn't that?
Yeah.
Doesn't it feel like it was yesterday?
Yep.
I mean, and then you've been in Oregon for 3 years already. But so we've known him Brittany's known him for many years. I've known him since I started dating Brittany and was married to Brittany. But we have a lot of mutual friends, family friends. So I feel like I've known the guy my whole life. But welcome to the show. Welcome back
Thanks
to Arizona.
So much.
How does it feel being back in Arizona?
Yeah, pretty good. We rolled out of Arizona. My family and I did in the spring of 2016 to take kind of a ministry leadership position up in Portland, and it'll be 3 years this coming June. But yeah, flying into Phoenix, Sky Harbor a couple days ago, I had mentioned there's this kind of deja vu feeling because we lived here for about 12 years, and so many great people here. I think we feel like the Portland has become home in the last few years to us, but we absolutely love Arizona. We love this community. So many incredible friends, family. Love your family. And yeah, that wedding day was a highlight for me. Wish you all could have been there. It was straight out of a magazine. Listen, it was
But
perfect.
if you guys do want to feel like you're there, Britt can share the wedding video. We have like a minute 40 video. We did marriage or premarital counseling with you. And I can honestly say we've learned a lot from you and your example. When you were leaving Arizona, I'm not going to lie though, like you were making a lot of people sad. Like we were all devastated you were leaving. And how could you be leaving Arizona? But obviously you had a bigger mission that you had to accomplish. But tell everybody, I mean, you paint the picture now. Like what's the backstory to being in Arizona, getting into ministry, getting into, motivational speaking, like rewind years back. Like how did you get here?
Yeah, you bet. I think for me, I went into college and literally was throwing darts at a career dartboard, hoping to hit something. So if anybody can relate to this who's watching the podcast, I had 7 different declared majors in college, 7. And so this was like 7 different career directions. And I think, I really was just trying to imagine what my life could look like. But for me, I had never really just surrendered that journey to God. And so I had a moment around major 6, 7 where I just said, hey, God, I don't care what I do.
Like, what'd you start? Did you have kinesiology in there?
Oh, man,
I feel like most people have kinesiology in
listen,
there.
I was pre-med twice, and I'll be honest, I was pre-med because the ladies loved when I would say, what are you doing in college? Oh, I'm pre-med. Wow, maybe we could talk about that a little bit. But so I was pre-med twice, and if my kids are ever injured, I always let them know, even today, listen, guys, don't worry. Your dad was pre-med twice. If my little boy says, why were you pre-med twice and not just once? But yeah, pre-med, pre-physical therapy, dentistry, a couple different business majors. And, I just think, I always wanted to make an impact with my life. But I think for me, I had never really surrendered to God, who for me, I believe knows me a lot better than I do.
Yeah.
So where I was just throwing darts at a career dartboard, I think he kind of knew the platform that I feel like he was going to lead me towards.
He was getting you that life experience.
Yeah.
7 different potential majors, dabbling in each one. He's like, I need you to feel out which one.
Yeah, that's what it was like, and so ended up, settling on a pastoral degree and finished school out in near Chattanooga, Tennessee, at a little private Christian college, and took a call to be a pastor out here in Arizona, and ended up staying in the same community for almost 11 years. And I think there was a lot of opportunities to go different places in that 11 years. But as I look back, in our friendship, with your amazing family, I think there was such a gift for myself and for my family of putting down roots in a community. And I think there's always opportunities to go, and sometimes it's easier to go than stay and reinvent yourself and really take your impact and influence to the next level. And I think looking back, that was such a gift for us to say, let's stay put. Let's not always take every open door, but let's look at, what are the blessings that are right in front of us, and what would it look like for us to just take, our life and influence to the next level versus let me just do what may be easier and go someplace new and just start over from scratch. Let's kind of hunker down here. And that's been, I think that's how we got to know each other. Yep. And that was such a blessing for us. So yeah, we did 11 years of ministry here in Arizona, and then ended up taking a opportunity. We wrestled through a lot of possibilities, but took an opportunity to go to Oregon about 3 years ago, and have kind of started a new ministry platform really for young leaders. I think that really is my heart, is to call out inside of people what I believe God has already put in them, and to say, to somebody like you, Andrew, you are gifted, and God has put incredible talents and gifts into your life. And anybody that knows Andrew knows that I'm not speaking fluff. You really are a gifted leader and individual. And
Appreciate
I think
that.
There's such a joy for me to come alongside young leaders who are trying to wrestle through identity, their mission purpose, and be able to just say, I see something in you that you may not see in yourself. And so much of what I do is really just leadership development, and it's helping people understand their worth and their value and their identity. And I think that we really step out in confidence when we know who we are, when we can say, whether that board meeting or that housing deal, whether it goes through or it falls flat, my identity and worth and value is not connected to the success of that business deal or not. Like, I know who I am, and I know who God created me to be. And so really just helping people kind of walk from that place of confidence.
How did you start getting involved in the youth side of things? Because obviously you came here, or you came to Arizona, 15 years ago. And how did you start, gearing your path? Because you were very involved, even when you were in Arizona, in the youth side, the youth camps, everything youth. What was the driving factor in kind of taking that path?
Yeah, I think that we experience some things in life that are very memorable and things we don't forget. For me, I started working at a Christian summer camp, and I had this moment when I got a contract to work at this camp, and my title or job for the summer was going to be a boat driver. What a better job! There's no better job.
Were you trained as a boat driver at any point?
No, but I had been around boats. But so you think about somebody was going to pay me for the next 3 months to teach kids how to wakeboard and water ski, and there was a real, I think, pivot moment where, as I launched into that first summer at that summer camp, that the director said, "Here's your keys," and he handed me the keys to a $60,000 ski nautique, and something clicked, and I thought to myself, this is not just a job. Somebody is empowering me with authority and responsibility. And I really believe, because it happened to me, that when we give young leaders authority and responsibility, that they will rise to the occasion. So for me, I grew so much during that first summer at camp, and I just fell in love with creating memories for kids. And we have so many kids that around the country and world that just come from home lives that are not ideal, where nobody is speaking life into them. So I just fell in love with being able to be around young leaders and influencers, and again, just kind of speak life and try to encourage them and open up the possibilities of what God could do for their life. And so, yeah, the idea of working with youth, it came out of that summer camp experience.
That boat. Isn't it crazy, though, thinking back, how certain things happen in your life, and not just your life, but anybody's life, that you're like, there's a reason, like that was planned, like that.
Yep.
Like there's these little things that happen that connect a lot of us in different ways, but also these little things that happen throughout our lives that trigger something to happen. And you look back and you're like, you remember that boat, you remember that $60,000 boat, you remember the feeling, that emotion that it brought to you, and that started this whole thing. Yep. That's the reason why you're in Oregon. That's the reason why you've met so many people. It's just crazy how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's you look back and there are just pivots, I think, that happen in our life that really help define, I think, who God is calling us to be. And it could be people that we meet, or a challenge that we overcome, or a door that opens up. And really saying, as I look back, there have been a lot of pivots that have helped shape, the person that I am today.
Okay, so now you're in Oregon, and what exactly are you doing in Oregon now? Because you have so many projects going on. I mean, we're watching all the time. I mean, a lot of people, I constantly post. Brittany and I constantly post. Josh Wallace, who was on the show a couple weeks ago, constantly post. Josh, he's watching right now after he's shoveling snow in Oregon. But we have so many friends in our close knit group, and you're posting a lot of motivational things, and we're talking about a podcast. I wanted to talk about the podcast a little bit. And you're starting to post more things and just great content that are just positive, uplifting messages. What spurred you to start adding that into your daily routine? What motivates you to do that?
You bet. So to that first question, what do I do on a regular basis? I'm hired to support young adult ministry.
Josh said, I see you.
Hey, Josh, we love you, buddy. But I serve as a administrative pastor, helping to support young adult ministry for over 100 or so churches in the network that we have in the Pacific Northwest. And so we're supporting ministry that happens at churches. And then I partner with a really good friend of mine, great leader, for about 3 months in the summer. And I do leadership training and mentoring for about 120 college students for 3 months. And that happens at one of our summer camps in Central Oregon called Big Lake Youth Camp.
Can anybody go to that?
Anybody can go to that. Incredible camp. We end up hosting about 1,200 Pacific Crest Trail hikers.
Wow.
They come through every summer, and the camp feeds them all for free.
Wow.
And there's no spiritual pressure or spiritualizing. It's just a chance to love on people from around the world that show up at our camp because it's on the trail of the PCT.
Yeah.
So
And the camp is all for youth
It is,
leadership and really.
yeah, so it's a great place. Got a couple thousand kids that come through for the summer. So my role for June, July, August is really to journey with this group of 120 young adults, leadership training, identity, confidence, which is really kind of an exciting gift for me to be able to do that. So I think that's a good question. You know, I went to a leadership conference about 6-7 years ago called Catalyst.
Okay.
And you can, Google Catalyst Conference. But we started going there a couple years ago. And I think it was a combination, Andrew, of the conference started my wheels turning, as well as I had just been really intentional about surrounding myself with leaders that were challenging me to the next level. And I think we are so much a product of our community. And there were just some people a number of years ago that were really challenging me. Benjamin, you've got to take, your life to the next level, how you engage as a father, as a husband, as an influencer. So I had people challenging me to go next level. And I would just say to anybody listening to this awesome podcast with the one and only Andrew, you have to have people in your life that are calling you higher.
Yeah.
And you have to have people for you. And you also have to, I think we have a responsibility to be that for other people. So I had some great voices speaking into my life. I had gone to this conference, and I just felt that I wanted to set a course for my life where I was constantly growing and developing. And I'll just say this, that's very uncomfortable.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, most people put in that position, it's a fight or flight thing.
Yep.
And probably 95% of individuals aren't going to fight it. They're going to fly. They're going to get away from that because you're going back to the easiness of it, the comfortness, which is probably, I mean, we could go into entrepreneurship and business, and there's many people probably in the same position in life in general and just business and in every facet, family, whatever you want. So, Ray, when you said that, I was like, a lot of people don't have that mindset for it.
And I think for me, you're right. There became a healthy addiction to growth. Mm-hmm. And I think it came from a place of, I want to be the best husband that I can be for my wife, and she deserves that. And I think for me to be the best for Kim, and we just celebrated, Andrew, 14 years
Congrats.
of being married.
Everybody give him some love for 14 years.
Which is amazing. But I want to be the best for Kim. And that means that for me to be my best, I have to be on a trajectory of growth, and development, whether that's emotional, spiritual, my community, trying to stay fit so I have energy to invest in what matters most. And so it was the idea that I wanted to be my best for my wife. I also have 2 kids. I know you got, if you all haven't seen the most beautiful pictures of a family, you and Brittany just have incredible kids.
She chooses my clothing. It's not me.
Yeah, Brittany's sense of style is on point.
Although I chose the boots I'm wearing.
Did you? Nice. But yeah, so I think it's, wanting to really say, I want to be the best for my wife. I want to be the best for my kids. I want to not give my kids my leftovers.
Yeah.
Like I only get one chance to do fatherhood.
Yeah.
And I want to be the best dad that I can be for my kids. And so it was just this realization that I am going to have to choose a journey of growth for the rest of my life, and not even to look at that as a negative, but just look at it as unlimited opportunity in what I can give to my wife. Is the funniest. She has the most incredible sense of humor, and she's just amazing. But to be able to just constantly pour into her, to be present for the kids. And so I think when you look at the platforms that you have, and you and your family do such a great job, I think, inspiring and empowering people with your social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, your business, what Brittany posts. I wanted to use the little platform that God had given me to try to inspire people.
Yeah.
And I think there's just some people that, and you do such a good job developing young leaders as well. And I love that intentionality about you. And when you engage with people, enough people, you know that sometimes folks are one quote or statement away from making a major pivot in their life, and it can change your life forever.
Well, there's a million quotes out there too, and people post quotes all the time. But you're right. You never know which quote is the one that actually has an effect on people. And I remember, probably 5 different. I've seen thousands of quotes, but there's that certain handful that stick out, that'll always stick out, just like that boat will always stick out in your past. So, okay, what's really quick? What's the podcast going to be?
So, I've had a podcast in the works for about a year. It's going to launch in about a month from now, and it's called Rise and Lead. And the idea with the podcast is to really just recognize that God has already put greatness in you. Like God already has greatness in Andrew, in Brittany, in your team. And so being able to recognize that we want to operate from a place of abundance. God never called us to operate from a mindset of scarcity. And I think there are so many people that are walking around with this idea of, I don't have enough. If only I had, I would achieve this, or I would launch this business or launch this podcast or engage with my family. And so I think the podcast comes from a place that says, Andrew, you already have it all. Like you are already loved. You already have worth and value, and you are operating from a place of abundance, and greatness is already in you. So the idea with the podcast in a nutshell is to call people to their next level of greatness, recognizing that God has already put greatness in you, and really help people to lead with more impact. So being able to say every episode is going to challenge people and to go to that next level, and it's going to challenge people to expand their platform of influence, where I'm hoping that every episode, the takeaways are going to be very practical, that can add real value to the life of people. But I think it essentially is a platform to share what people have done for me in my life and be able to just serve and add value to the lives of other people by just encouraging them. Don't operate from scarcity, operate from abundance. God has already given you everything already inside of you, and let's just speak some truth into your life and help you go to that next greatness level and lead with more impact.
Guys, if you don't already, make sure to go follow Ben on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram. What other? Are you on Twitter too?
Twitter, which is not as active as it could be.
It's hard to manage.
Are you active on Twitter?
I use Twitter for just observing. It's hard to manage all platforms, I'll be honest. But
Instagram's the main one.
Instagram is the main one. So make sure to follow Ben on Instagram if you don't already, especially with the podcast and all that stuff, so you guys can listen. Because whether we're talking business, whether we're talking family life, whether we're talking kids, whether we're talking anything, Ben's message is applies to everybody. It applies to everybody. So make sure to listen. But let's rewind a little bit. And one thing that I wanted to talk about was, the being challenged to go to your next level. Being challenged to be great in what you've already been given. For most people, they're probably thinking, like, how do I do that? How? Because like I said, 95% of individuals, if they're faced with a fight or flight situation, they're going to be flying away. So what advice would you give to that person who's listening and saying, like, I've had so many opportunities that I've never taken? That happens all the time. I didn't take that opportunity in the business, or I didn't ask that girl out.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
What comes to mind, and that's a great question, is how many of us have set New Year's resolutions? Everybody. I'm going to lose X amount of pounds, or I'm going to launch this, or I'm going to engage with that. And I think that I think part of stepping forward in those opportunities is you in your mind getting clarity on the opportunity you really want to take advantage of. And sometimes I think, Andrew, we've got to be able to say, I'm going to put pen to paper and I'm going to write down what my hopes and dreams are for my life in the next 90 days, in the next 6 months, in the next year. So I think first I would say, have clarity on what goals and dreams you really have for your life, and think big. Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to provide something for your family? How do you want to lead your kids? Whatever it is, standard of living. But I would say first, write it down in your own handwriting, pen to paper, so you have clarity on the vision of what could be for your life. And I think a lot of people, Andrew, they do that with New Year's resolutions, but here's where New Year's resolutions fail, is that just setting the resolution or casting the vision is not enough. We've got to be able to say, I'm going to look toward the vision with clarity on what my hopes and dreams could be, but I'm going to build a system into my life that guarantees that resolution or that vision happens. And so for anybody who's watching, you can actually guarantee that your hopes and dreams for your life will come true because you can build a system that guarantees that those things are going to happen. So I'll give an example. If somebody says, my vision for 2019, and what month are we in? We're about to be into March.
Okay. Unbelievable.
Oh, man. So you may say, my vision for the next 10 months of my life, the 10 months of 2019, is that I'm going to have tremendous personal growth, emotional, could be physical, spiritual, family. So what would that system look like? If you wanted to grow, let's just say as a leader and influencer, here's a system that I would suggest setting up. You need to be taking in impact leadership content every day. So for me, I do a minimum of a podcast a day. So one podcast of content every single day. I try to do a book a week. So, and sometimes that's listening to a book on double speed because I suffer from an ADHD condition. And sometimes,
a lot of leaders do.
I got to get that thing going. Yeah. But a podcast a day or a book a week, set up maybe 2 to 3 mentoring conversations that you can have with people that are going to push you to that next level every single month. So maybe you do a podcast a day, a book a week, 3 mentoring meetings a month. And I would say maybe you set in your yearly rhythm, you attend one leadership growth conference every year, and you just build that into your yearly rhythm that I know every April, my wife and I'm going to be at this conference and I'm going to soak in everything I can. And that's another thing I really appreciate, Andrew, about you in tracking with you on social media. You intentionally put yourself out there to attend conferences and to have conversations with people and to grow. And I think that's part of the system that you have built up with your life. And I'll even throw out one that may be a little out there for some people. Maybe you set a full weekend aside with a mentor or somebody that really speaks life into you, and you do a weekend a year where you guys just set 3 days apart, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you just spend 3 days processing, maybe a couple big questions. What is going right in my life in this weekend? What's going wrong? What's missing? And what's confusing? But I think, for anybody listening, dream a little bit. What would you want your life to look like in the next year or even 5 years? And then begin to build a system daily, weekly, monthly, 6 months, yearly, that can guarantee that that'll happen.
Well, I think the simple, even to simplify that to another degree, at the end of the day, you have a goal and you gotta develop the strategy.
Yep.
Whether you're losing 100 pounds, you can't just say I'm going to lose 100 pounds. You need to create that workout plan, that meal plan, and you make these little things achievable, because keeping it simple is the most effective thing you could ever do. We talk about it. We talk about it in mortgage. With when I got into the business, and what I've done with a few of the guys who have come from underneath me is developing a simple mortgage strategy. I think real estate agents should do it. I think any entrepreneurs should do it. Anybody working on a referral, anybody trying to achieve a goal, and in developing, if this is your goal, picking five five facets of how you're going to get there, or five strategic goals within that goal. But you can't pick too many, because obviously if you get it too crazy, it's going to be not going to be impossible, but you're going to make it hard for yourself. But creating 5 things that you need to do on a regular basis, saying I'm going to meet with coffee, or have coffee with 3 people a week. I'm going to have lunch with one person from this type of industry a week. I'm going to attend this thing twice a week. And if you achieve those weekly goals, whatever your long-term vision is going to be, it's going to happen.
I love that.
It's going to happen. And that's in family life. If what you're saying is essentially you have this goal to do X, Y, Z with your family, but you need to make little goals, having dinner together.
Yep.
A couple times a week, or doing this together, or going to experience this together. And if you do those little things, there's no reason why the big vision isn't going to work, right? Whether you're in family life or business.
Yeah, I love that. I think you got to build rhythms and systems into your life that, I think are not overwhelming, but are achievable. And sometimes we don't give these small efforts enough credit, where we say, oh, what's the big deal sitting down with my family for dinner? But when you look back over a year and you've sat down to dinner with your family and kids 100 times, you better believe that all those little investments have added up to make a big impact. So I think you're totally right. I love that, the focus on building systems and rhythms that are achievable.
Yeah.
And they may seem small, and they may even seem insignificant at the time, but they'll add up to great value and impact over the long haul.
Josh actually just shot us a text. Yep. Where can people find the podcast?
Podcast has not launched yet, but just my Instagram account, Benjamin Lundquist. Everything will go live and promoted through the Instagram account.
Okay, cool.
So
so follow. Make sure to follow Ben on Instagram, and then he'll lead you from there. All right. What time are we at? We've been going for 32 minutes already. Isn't that crazy?
Time flies.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you another question that people may be wondering. And if anybody has any questions for Ben who's watching, make sure to comment below. How do you find time for all of this? And how would you tell somebody else to find time? Because somebody else may be like, holy crap, Ben, you're doing all these events. You're challenging yourself to bring on more, not just be the do all the youth events and do your normal pastoral duties and spend time with your family, but you're also going to start this podcast and create content and all that stuff. So how do you manage all that?
That's a good question, Andrew. Two things that I would say in response to that question. One, this is just for me personally, I really try to take care of myself, physically, sleep, when sleep may seem counter to what you're talking about, but
me, I go to bed around 1 o'clock.
Yeah, but I think being able to say I've got a good community around me, I built up a good system, so I do have the energy for what matters most. And so I think for anybody that says I want a broader impact, or I want to achieve these goals, or I want to do some things that really matter, you have to have a cup, bottle, whatever it is, but you have to have a cup that actually has something in it. And so I would say nobody is going to lead you better than you, and nobody cares more about how you are doing than you do. So you have to lead yourself well. And so I think I have some emotional and mental energy to try to expand some platforms, because I'm trying to take care of myself. There's a lot, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of tweaks and improvement that I'm still working on, but I want to make sure my cup is not depleted, because if you got a depleted cup, you can have all the dreams and hopes in the world that will never happen, and you'll end up, years will go by, and the dreams will pass you by as well. So making sure you have a cup that's filled up, when you build a good rhythm within your life. And here's something like really practical, and I love what you said about, keep it simple. Something really practical that has been profound for me is this: you have to be okay with saying no. And the idea with that simple commitment is, every time I say yes to more, inevitably I'm going to say no to something else, because you only have X amount of hours in the day. So if I say yes to another business meeting or 2 or 3 every day, what I'm going to say no to is possibly time at the gym or time with my wife or time with my kids or sleep. And eventually that stuff is going to catch up to you. But I think being able to say, I am okay saying no so I can say yes to what matters most in my life, and just being able to do that. And I would say, Andrew, for me, this goes back to, if you know your identity and you know the worth and value that God has given you, you are confident that you can say no, because you know that your worth and value and identity are not tied up in that business deal or in that opportunity. So when I say no to something so I can say yes to what matters most, I'm not going to walk away feeling less than, because I already know, I'm already confident about who I am and about who God created me to be. And so, part of the being able to say no is being able to say, like, Andrew knows who he is and where his identity is anchored, and his worth and value is already given to him. So you can say no without having your worth and value tied to that invitation. So, to come full circle, I think I've just tried to do a good job saying no to all the stuff that's just excess fluff.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that we do in our life that, if we're honest, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not really benefiting us. It's not benefiting our wife, as a husband or as a father with our kids. It's not advancing maybe our life and goals. And so I think we have to call fluff and wasted time out for what it is, and be able to say, that's not adding value to my life. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm still working through so much of this myself, and be able to say, I'm going to leave myself well. And I'm also going to be okay with saying no, because I know where my identity is anchored. And that person may be disappointed, but I can say no in a gracious, loving way. It's not a
no. I know. No. Like, get away from me. It's a hey. It's a respectful no of this doesn't fit. With what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, and it may not be a no forever.
Correct.
It may just be a no right now. And I think, as you track through personal business life, we have to say yes to the right things and no to other things, depending on the rhythm that we are in, because certain things need more time and attention at certain seasons, of our life. But yeah, I'm still trying to work it all out, but I feel like I try to take care of myself. I want to have a cup that's filled up, and I've tried to master saying no and not feeling guilty for doing that, and just trim the fat, if you will, so you can try to invest in the few things that are going to make the greatest impact. And one thing I've learned, and it may not be this way for you because you're good at so many things, but I know for me, I cannot be great at 10 things.
Yeah.
I can't. But you know what, Andrew? I can be great at 3.
Yeah.
And there are 3 things that I can do really well. I can help build culture in my organization. I can speak life and motivate people, and I can grow leaders. So I'm going to focus on what I do really well, and just recognize I don't have the capacity to do 10 things well, but I can do 3 really well.
And that's the key. I mean, that probably goes along with your message too, is in that strategy, in that rhythm, is one of those things could be figure out what you do well.
Yep.
Figure out what you do well, have confidence in it. No need to be cocky, but understand what you do well and do it graciously.
Could I throw in a couple practical things? Yeah. We may go for 2 hours. But if somebody is on the podcast right now and you're trying to figure out, like, what am I good at, or where are my passions at? A couple questions that have been huge to process for me in my own life, and I think this would be worth throwing out there for the audience. If you want to figure out what am I good at, where are my passions really at, asking yourself a couple questions. First one would be this: what would you take a 50% salary cut to do because you love that thing so much?
Yeah.
Like, you're willing to say, I'm going to take half the money because I just love doing that thing. You probably have a passion for that. And if you have a passion, you're inevitably probably great at that thing. Another question would be, what would you do for free?
Yeah.
What would you do for no financial compensation because it fuels you and you love doing that thing? So what would you go 50% salary cut? First question. Second question, what would you do for free? No compensation because you love it. I would say a third question, what did you love to do as a kid? Because often what we love to do as a kid, we still love to do today.
that.
So I'm gonna like
Once a kid, always a kid.
Let me ask you that, like,
Okay.
Andrew, what did you love to do as a kid? What drew you as a kid with your time and energy? You're like, if I could do anything, I'm gonna do these few things. What did you love to do?
Competing in sports.
Yeah,
Playing
sports.
golf, competing in sports, and still to this day. I mean, I'm, you know me. I tried to play professional golf and took a hiatus to start my career, but now I enjoy playing golf. I try to play as much as I can, competing in amateur events.
Someday we'll play together.
So yes, we will. And then play my men's basketball league Tuesday nights. So keeping that competitive edge, because that is what fuels my life, and that is what I want my kids to see. I think that's the biggest thing is, if whatever you were passionate as a kid, and if you keep that passion and incorporate into your life in some way, shape, or form as an adult, your kids are going to see their father or mother doing something with passion.
Yep.
And what more could you want to show them is doing? They don't have to love that exact thing, but showing them that they can do something and do it wholeheartedly and love doing it. I think that's the key for that's what I want my children to see is doing something that dad loves, competing in sports. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's spike ball in the backyard with Grandpa Greg and Uncle Brad on Friday nights. We play some spike ball like crazy, and that's what we love doing because we like being competitive. And for us, that's fun. That's what we love to do. So for me as a kid, it was all just competing in sports or competing in anything. Ping pong, I didn't care. Have it that's what's fun to me, and that's what I want them to see.
And I would say, if that was what you loved to do as a kid, it'd be safe to say that, Andrew, you love challenging yourself and you love growth, and you often love working in a team. You love developing teams, which is part of, athletics and competition and sports. And you love challenges. Like, you always want to be in a place, I would imagine, in your life where you're being challenged, to grow. And I know you and Brittany are raising your kids to face challenges, and to be able to grow and know that mom and dad has their back. So asking that question.
So what are the 3 questions? So if anybody wants to write it down, hey Josh, since I know you're watching, you can type these in the comments if you want for everybody. Question 1 to ask yourself.
Question 1 is, what would you take a 50% salary cut to do? Question 2 would be, what would you do for free because you love doing that so much? Question 3, what did you love to do as a kid? For me, I love Legos, and now I build teams of people and platforms. So I think the idea of building. But what did you love to do as a kid? And then question 4, which we haven't got to, last one, think about, Andrew, the last time that a day for you absolutely flew by because you loved what you were doing so much. All of a sudden you looked at your watch and it's 8:00 in the evening. You're thinking, wow, it's 8 already, because you loved what you were doing. And what were you doing, during that day that allowed you to be so lost in the passions of that day that it just flew by? But I think some good questions, those are some good ones when you're processing this idea of, what am I good at? And if you know from those questions that these are your passions, and your passions are often tied to what you're great at, that can give you a foundation to say, I'm okay saying no to the fluff and the extra, because I really want to look at multiplying and maximizing my passion areas and the things that I'm really good at.
And that's probably, a lot of people have, I have trouble saying no. My wife has trouble saying no.
I do too.
We all do, but you make a very good point. The reason why we may be bad at saying no or not good at it yet is because we don't have the direction of why to say no. It's easy to not say no when you don't know why you would say no. So I challenge everybody, because the biggest room we have is room for growth. So challenge everybody to ask yourself those 4 questions. That's the reason for this whole show, as I bring entrepreneurs on and mentors and people like Ben is to motivate you guys to find a life of happiness and positivity because we all do something in this world. We all have careers. We all do things, but the key is, whatever you're gonna do, make sure you don't waste your life doing something that doesn't fulfill you.
I love that. Yep, I love that. I think the other side of these saying no, just to make sure we go full circle, is when you say no to the fluff and the excess, when you really have honed in on those passions and the things that you're great at, then you are set up to say yes with courage when the doors of opportunity open up.
Yeah.
So I think, as you kind of trim the fat, you focus in, and when you are seeing fruits, come out of what you're doing, doors of opportunity are going to open up. And I think that's where, when you're at that threshold of opportunity, you can step forward with courage and say, I know my identity. I know my worth and value. I've said no to the excess. I've got clarity on my passions. I think I have an idea of things that I'm really good at. And you can step forward and take those risks of opportunity. You can start that podcast. You can go next level with your family. You can start that business. You can join that company. Maybe for somebody that's watching today, your courage is just being able to say, the company I'm working for is killing me. Like I'm not growing here, and this is not a place I need to be long term. And because you've really done some processing, you've grown a bit in confidence, you can just say, I want to cast a vision that I need to change companies. Like I need to step out in courage and make some of those pivots and shifts, with my life, because I've got some clarity on those passions and what I really am great at, and I can step forward.
And to relate it to business, it could be you've been doing business a certain way, and you find yourself looking at the clock every 30 minutes and saying, is this day over? I mean, there's so many people who go lead chasing, or they go cold calling, and you can be successful any way of business you want to do business, but you have to find the way that makes you happy in doing business, and in turn the success will probably come. We have a question for you. Eric says, what advice do you have to mentor others better right now?
Oh man, tell you, we could talk all day. So
we got some time before my lunch meeting.
Eric, great question. Let me just speak into that just a little bit. When I think we need to redefine what mentoring is, and I think that will really open up the possibilities for mentoring to actually happen. I think we need to stop thinking about mentoring as a teacher-student relationship. And I think we often think, if I'm a little bit older, I always have to come with wisdom, and I always have to be speaking knowledge and experience into somebody. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on us to not be present, because we always want to come with an agenda. And I'll just say this, Eric, that's a great question. Mentoring does not have an agenda attached to it. And so I would say, let's redefine mentoring and move away from a teacher-student relationship where I always have to be in teacher mode. And I think when we look at somebody as the student, in some way we almost devalue them a little bit, versus saying, no, we're peers. Like, we're both leaders. Like, we both have a calling upon our life for something great. So move away from teacher-student. And I would say this, think about mentoring as deeper withing. And I invented that word, I think.
Deeper
withing.
Withing.
So if you look it up, you're not going to find
you're not. It's
it.
going to be in the dictionary in a few years, though. Don't you worry.
Suri is going to correct you if you kick that out. But the idea with deeper withing is mentoring is doing deeper life with a small number of people. And I can't pour life into 1,000 people, but I can pour life and I can walk through life with probably 3 or 5. And so the idea is that we are doing deeper life with a few people. And I'll just say this, Andrew, from my life and some people that I mentor, that approach is a game changer.
Yeah.
Because when you are walking through life with somebody, you're not competitive with them. It's about doing life together. And if you're somebody who is a little bit older, I would just counsel you with this. When you do deeper life with somebody, there's often times when you have to shut up and not come with wisdom to speak into somebody else's life, but you have to be empathetic and you have to sit on the curb with somebody and just listen to what's going on in their life. And, we talk about sympathy is I feel sorry for you. Empathy is I'm going to put myself in your shoes so I can understand what you're going through in your life and let you know you're not alone. And so just looking for people who are people in your life that need some extra love and support to go to that next level that you can just do some deeper life with. And I'll just say this too, how many of us agree, that are watching, that if you're a little bit older, I don't like to say old, but if you're seasoned, like seasoned salt, if you're seasoned salt, how many of us agree that we have a whole lot that we can learn from somebody who's younger? A whole lot.
Well, I think, in most facets of life, you're right. It's the perception of older versus younger.
Yeah.
Older has to be better, smarter, wiser, which in certain facets of life they may be, but getting on understanding that no matter what your age is, once you get that wall down, you break down that wall, then you can understand everybody can learn from each other much easier, right?
Yeah.
Once they don't have that perception of this younger person, I get that a lot. I get it in our industry. I'm a younger person in our industry by 20 years on the average. So I completely get where you're coming from. We have another question.
Sure. Where
is your favorite place to eat in Phoenix?
Oh, that's good. I'll give you two.
I saw that burger you posted yesterday.
So
was that a
good,
veggie burger?
It was some kind of a beet burger.
Really?
So but it was pretty good.
Okay.
Two places I have that I have hit up this week already, and ironically, they were both in mentoring dinner invitations. So there were a lot of leaders sitting around the table, and we were just doing life together, and sharing about journeys and experiences. But two I'd recommend. I love the restaurant Taco Guild.
Okay.
That's near Osborne, and it's a remodeled Methodist church that is now a restaurant, and some of the pews from the church are still in the restaurant. The food is top notch.
Really?
So
Taco Guild.
So if you're a meat eater, vegetarian, gluten-free, but it's a great place. And then I got recommended to another restaurant by a friend of mine named Alexia Clark, who does some fitness. She's in the fitness industry. And we tried it last night, and it's called Doughbird. And so it's a restaurant called Doughbird, and it's kind of a gourmet pizza appetizer restaurant, but that's another good one.
Well, we're getting dinner in the next couple of days.
We are.
And I'm taking you to a place in Mesa.
Nice.
Called Republica Empanada.
Oh, love it. Love it.
You're going to love it. It's going to be a great place. All right, so we're getting toward the end of our show. We got about 6 more minutes. One question what I wanted to bring up is support system.
Yeah.
How important is, you talk about your wife, how she's so fun and she's got to be supportive to all that. So how important is support system? How often do you see support system be the wall to that individual success? How to deal with that? Let's talk about support system.
Sure. I think part of why, part of the success that Kim and I have had in marriage, and I say that carefully, because as good of a week as you can have, last week, you say some of the wrong things, or you approach your marriage in a way that's not sensitive, and you can have some challenges. So, but I think Kim and I have had some relational successes and growth. Kim, I think, is supportive because we have a 100% constant flow of communication. Like, we are dreaming about life together for our family, but we talk about life, we celebrate, we talk about struggles. And I think when it comes to building that support in the marriage system, communication is absolutely essential. If couples are not going to dialogue and talk together, that it's going to be really challenging for them to grow together. So to that point, Kim and I talk a lot. Even when I'm traveling, we'll FaceTime at least once a day. We're texting all throughout the day, but we're life partners and we're doing life together. I'm not her mentor. Let me just say that. Even though
let's clarify that.
Even though we are about 5.5 years age difference, I would never say that I am Kim's mentor. That just wouldn't go well. But we have that communication going on, and then I think apart from that, it's being able to say, you want to build a support system of community around yourself, and you want to be really intentional with that community. I think sometimes we think about community, oh, I know people. Well, people are community, but there are different levels and layers within community that we want to build into our life intentionally so we can have that support system. So I'll give you an example. I think that a couple different levels. I think that everybody needs to have a community layer that I call a confidant. And confidant are those 2 or 3 people that you can be 100% authentic about your struggles, hopes, and dreams. Mm-hmm. So do you have 3 people in your life that really are the confidant community that you can bare your soul with, and you can talk about those struggles and triumphs? So support system of 2 or 3 that are your solid, I call it like the inner circle. Okay. And then I always think that you also want to have another level that are kind of like your traveling companions. So you have a confidant, which is your inner circle. Then you have those traveling companions, and maybe those are your 12 or 15 people that are just your tribe. Like, you're doing life with, you're sharing meals, sporting events, the Super Bowl, but you're doing life with that tribe. You have your confidant level of 3 that you're really connecting with on a deep level. You have your accountability partner, or you have a spouse, somebody that you're kind of doing the one-on-one. And then I think being able to say, you also want to have a crowd connection level of community. So you've got crowd, traveling companions, you've got your confidants, but your crowd, they are the movers and shakers in your community, in Tempe or in Phoenix or Scottsdale. But the crowd of the people that you engage with on a fairly regular basis who are just movers and shakers within your community. So just think about community. You want to have diversity within community, and you want to have levels of community that are going to be able to bless your life in different ways, and you are going to be able to serve those communities in different ways. And then last thing I'd share with you, I'm a big proponent of having a personal board that you have around your life. And we live fairly near to a small shoe operation in Portland known as Nike. And we've done tiny. And we've done some field trips to talk to Nike, some executives and employees about their organization, that kind of thing. Always wanting to grow. But you look at any big organization, nobody is leading an organization just with a CEO.
Correct.
There's always a board of directors and investors. So I think just thinking about your life as almost like a mini corporation, that you want to have a board of investors and directors, advisors around your life. And I would say go for 8 to 10, individuals that you build up over time. Start simple. Maybe it's just a few, but these are people that are speaking life into you. They're advising you. They're calling you to the next level. They're helping you grow. They're processing that new business or realty opportunity or mortgage opportunity. But just think about, build a support system. Don't wait for it to come to you. Build it. And I know that is in your podcast title, but I'll just say, like, the community we have, it's life and death for us. And so don't wait for it to come to you. And whatever age you may be at listening to this podcast, you can build more intentional community, and you can go out there and say, I need confidants. I need those 2 or 3. I need that tribe. I mean, there's some people listening that may say, I don't have any friends. Like, I'm just not enjoying life because I don't have that tribe community. Or you may say, I don't know anybody in my community, or have some of those contacts. But just think about, don't wait for community to come to you. Community is life and death. We're a product of who we hang out with and who invests in us, but build it. And I love your title, Build It.
Build it.
So begin small, find a confidant, schedule some dinner dates with other couples around the community. Make once a month, do a couple coffee dates with movers and shakers in your community. Put that in your
strategy. Put that in your rhythm.
Make it happen.
It's hard to get for anybody trying to make change.
Yep.
We understand it's hard. It's hard to start making that change. Brittany said she could listen to your voice all day.
She's way too kind.
Yeah. But the reality is, yes, it's hard to initiate change in your life, in your business, in your family. It's hard. It's hard for everybody. There's not one person who it's not hard for. But once you start, it gets easier. Once you get into that rhythm, it gets easier. You're learning to play piano. It's hard at first, but once you get that rhythm going, once you get the feeling of it, it gets easier. So don't be afraid to make change.
You are so right.
Start somewhere. For anybody listening now, because we're going to wrap up the show, we talked about earlier about 4 questions to ask yourself in life, in business, and family, whatever you want. But 4 questions. And I wanted to repeat the 4 questions right now. What are they, Ben?
So your question was, how can we hone in on our passions or the things that we're great at? You always want to be aligning your life to your sweet spot, So those 4 questions were, what would I take? Number 1, what would I take a 50% salary cut to do? Okay. Number 2, what would I do for free because you love it and you're great at it? Number 3, what did you love to do as a kid? Because we often love to do those same things as an adult. And then number 4 was, when is the last time in your life that a day flew by because you loved that day so much? And reverse engineer the day. What was happening during that day, but just a couple questions to process when you think about, what are you passionate about and what might I really be great at?
Perfect. We're going to leave you, if you listen to any part of this podcast, if you wanted to sum it up in one thing, that's what we challenge you to do today. You may learn a ton of other stuff, and some other things that Ben may have talked about may spur some type of emotion inside of you. But one thing I challenge each and every one of you is to ask yourself those 4 questions. And if those 4 questions, if something triggers inside of you, then you're on the right path. Yep. You're initiating some type of change for your own good, because you deserve that. That's first and foremost, you deserve that. Is there anything else you want to say? When you're in town again, we're going to have Ben. Anytime, from now on, anytime Ben comes in town, he's going to come on the show.
I would love to just speak some life into you on this podcast. And I would say these things if there were no cameras going, and I think you know my heart on that. I really appreciate the way that you and Brittany carry your family. And I know that the love you have for your immediate family, your kids, it's genuine. And I hope that people that may see you on a screen with you and with your wife and family, what you see is really what you get behind the scenes as well.
Appreciate that.
So thank you for inspiring us with the priority of family. I know that you love Brittany like crazy, and you have put a high priority on not just surviving in marriage, but thriving. And I think that's a very huge vision that you have for your life, and you're living that out. You love your extended family. This guy has such a connected family. Like, people are
it's
always getting together, which I think is amazing. And I just want to say thank you for the passion that we both have for raising up young leaders. And I want to thank you for giving people a shot, for believing in people, for creating platforms where people can be inspired. But I think that you are just at the tip of the iceberg of a hugely influential career and journey in life that you're going to have, where at the end of the day, you, Brittany, you're going to impact thousands of people. So thank you for this podcast.
Appreciate it.
What you share, and just have a lot of love for you guys.
No, we love you too.
You're doing great.
We've always loved you. We're always a supporter. You'll always see me share Ben's stuff on my Instagram, and Brittany as well. So make sure to follow him, though. Make sure to follow him and share his stuff, because at the end of the day, this is a message, and this is a platform that I think the world should hear and listen to. So if you see Ben's stuff, share it on your pages. Share his inspirational quotes. He's doing more video now too. I saw he posted an inspirational message. So go follow Benjamin Lundquist. Is it Ben Lundquist or Benjamin? What's your Instagram handle?
Benjamin Lundquist. Yep.
Benjamin Lundquist. Go follow him. Go share him. Go spread his word, because it's a word worth listening to and worth other people listening to. So help him spread his message as this podcast starts. And anytime he comes in Arizona, he has to be on the show.
Guy's so
I'm going to
good.
come up to Oregon and be on your show.
Love it.
Is there anything else? I feel like we should just keep talking, but I have a lunch meeting in about 20 minutes I got to be at. Quick shout out to our sponsors. We don't need to show their stuff. Empire West Title, Arizona Insurance Advisors, Abe Bodden, and then Platinum Home Warranty. Thank you for always sponsoring the show. Thank you, Ben, for coming on.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited to take you for Republica Empanadas.
Nice.
It's crazy. And then obviously this show is brought to you by the Augustiniac team at Prime Lending. If you have any questions about your mortgage, you want me to do a review on it and see if there's any opportunity to put yourself in a better financial position, shoot me a message or give me a call. My number is everywhere. You can find it anywhere. Farai, thank you and Lister Pros for always producing the show. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful rest of your week, because usually I say have a great weekend, but today is the start of your week. So have a wonderful week. Ask yourself those questions. If you guys need anything, Ben's a wealth of knowledge, so reach out to him, even if you just want to talk. Have a great week. We'll see you later.